pretty amazing thing.
Wow. Okay.
Hey, could I jump in, Joe?
Please.
Yep.
Could you explain, because you named 2 organizations
Yes.
for whoever's lifeguarding
Yep.
at specifically,
Yep.
the 7-mile stretch. What is it? Who are these guys? Most people know the surfers, but
Yep.
surfers know them. Who are these guys? What does it take to become one of them? Could
Yep.
you expand on that?
Yeah. So there's 2 organizations that basically watch over the North Shore, and so there's the Hawaiian Water Patrol, which Hawaiian Water Patrol was started by Terry Ahui, and so and they started it years and years ago just for water safety, for what we're talking about, because like kind of the jet ski rescue, like that kind of came much later. Like when I started like competing at like pro events, it was still like the water patrol guy was on a longboard, just kind of watching, making sure none of the non-competitors don't come. And then the water safety started to come in. And so Hawaiian Water Patrol, basically any surf competition, they're there to watch over the surfers, to just make sure everything's safe. The other organization is basically the city and county of Honolulu North Shore Lifeguards. And so, and so we have a partnership. Florence Brand has a partnership with the North Shore Lifeguard Association. And so they're just another department for the ocean safety lifeguards. And so they brought the skis in too, because, most of these rescues and stuff, you need the water safety. Like you need the ski, if not, like it's pretty hard to get a surfer in on a little board, and so yeah, these guys are just like, they're so trained. They know exactly what to do in situation. If it's a neck injury, they're holding them in the proper places. They're heroes, you know what I mean? Like they're incredible. And you guys, I'll get you one of those boys on here for sure, because I think I know you guys do some stuff with the first responders,
Yes.
but I mean, either Uncle Terry or like North Shore Lifeguard Association guys, I'll get them on here, because I think it's good, because like they're kind of unsung heroes, you know what I mean? It's kind of a thing, but it's like these guys, day in and day out, and it's not just specific to pipeline, right? It's like tourist at Pipeline, the Eddy, in the summer at Sharks Cove, like they're constantly pulling people out of the water, And so like, a big thing is like the communication to whether it's a tourist or surfer or a pro surfer, whatever it is, and knowing that like, hey, these guys are here for a reason and they're to keep you safe, because a lot of people, nobody likes to be told, oh, you can't go out there, it's too big, but really, a North Shore lifeguard, like they have to tell those guys that, because they can read these surfers walking down or tourists like a book, and say like, this guy shouldn't even touch the water, and then yet they go and touch the water, and then they're like having the pull them in, and like all those lifeguards, they're so cool, and like I said, I just respect what they do so much.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about Clyde real quick, because Uncle Clyde just passed away.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. A huge part of the Aikau family and the Eddy. What does the Eddy Aikau surf event mean to you? Yeah.
So, to me, like, it's the most prestigious surfing competition around, I think not only because it's in memory of Eddy, and now Uncle Clyde for sure, but it's just a special event. We all know the history of the event. It only runs when it's 25 feet or bigger, and so it takes a pretty special swell for that event to run. And so, and the list of names who won it, which is a small list, are like, they're the best out there, And it's probably the hardest event to win, it's because these guys, a couple times a year they're surfing Waimea for the most part, and they're not surfing it that big. And so what I hear most is that I never was invited to the Eddy or anything like that, thankfully. But like, it's like when the Eddy runs, the wave turns into a different wave than per se like your normal 20-foot swell out there, where it's like, oh, it's like party wave. There's like guys are just dropping in, it's crowded, When it's the Eddy and it's big enough and it's doing its thing, it's an intense drop, And the invitee, just to be on that invite list is like it's like the biggest honor, And then to do it for what we all know what Eddie Aikau did, and so it's just a special event. There's so much history behind it, and I think it's the best surf event around. It's a Super Bowl.
I would have to agree. And anytime it's on, everybody gets the jitters, and it's just one of those things. Is it a goal? Is it a goal? You know what I mean? So I think the anticipation and excitement that surrounds it is absolutely wonderful for Hawaii and for the surfing community. My last surfing question, because we have some important things to talk about besides surfing, equally important things, but is Kelly Slater, John Florence. I was going to ask you who's number one. However, I think what would be a better answer or a better question is, can you tell me what makes both of them great?
Another good question. They're both great, like I think the most important thing, everybody knows Kelly Slater, I mean, he's the greatest of all time, I think with someone like Kelly Slater, and I question is like, it's like, he's the greatest of all time surfer, you know what I mean? I put him on like, he's probably the greatest of all time athlete, because the guy's been through like 3 generations of the best surfers and has handled them all. And so Kelly is just on his own little pedestal, but the main thing with Kelly, as I know him personally, he's a great guy, like he's a super genuine guy. He loves surfing. He loves the golf, like he just, everything he does and did for all those years was for the sport of surfing. And so in my opinion, he's the greatest of all time athlete. John, on the other hand, I met John, I mean, a really long time ago when he was like a little grom, Fast forward him, John is an incredible human. Like, he is just like, he's so down to earth. Like, everybody loves him, not just like, the surfers of Hawaii, like internationally, like in Brazil, like people just love him because he's just a humble, amazing, amazing surfer, but he's very likable, and it's pretty cool to like see kind of how his career went. And, he won his 3rd world title last year. The things that John's doing are just different than what Kelly's doing. Kelly was so like, I'm going to win titles. I'm going to win titles. I'm going to win titles, For John, it was like, John's like, okay, he won his first 2 titles like 7 years ago, and then he had to deal with a lot of adversity with injuries and whatnot. And so, for him to win this 3rd world title was just like a special thing for him, and that was like aside from him like starting his brand, Florence Marine X, and so, I think they're just two amazing surfers that wave the flag of surfing, and there's probably no better guys, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was a great assessment, and that's kind of what I wanted to hear was the awesome points about both of those men. And I said that was my last surfing question. My last surfing question is about artificial waves and your thoughts on that, because I know Kelly has his surf ranch, and there's a lot of other. I think there's some in France. There's one in Texas. But what are your thoughts on artificial waves?
My thoughts are, I love the artificial waves, to be honest. I think they're cool. I know when Kelly announced, Surf Ranch, like this is the best artificial wave. I was blessed enough to go actually surf the wave twice. But artificial waves in general, like, they're pretty darn cool, And I was just talking to my buddy about this now because we're seeing them pop up, like Waikai, which is more of a stationary wave. I went to the one in Waco. What it is like artificial waves may not make sense in Hawaii because we have the best waves, natural waves, But for somewhere like Waco or the middle of America or anywhere really, it's great because it's like, it helps grow the sport. And it gets people in the water and it gets people falling in love with the sport of surfing, and the technology with the waves now are getting so good. Like I took my kids 2 summers ago. I went to the one in Waco, and like, it was like a cool surf trip, like it wasn't like big waves or anything, but like that wave is super fun for me, like an adult, and then my kids who's like, you know, little groms, and like the wave just comes every time. You know what I mean? Like the pool's pointed in a certain direction where the winds are always offshore, like, you know, and so it's like, it's just a perfect scenario. And I think it gives the broader public access to surfing, you know, and there's going to be a lot more wave pools popping up. I know, like, I heard like there's like 20 already in the States coming up any day now. And so.
Well, I think anything that brings people into the world of surfing is something positive in general for surfing.
Yeah.
But don't come to your home break.
Yeah.
Don't tell them where the home break is. Okay, so